Tottenham Hotspur 1, Manchester United 0. The Europa League final is that we've been looking forward to. The only thing that offered all of us, you, me, and everybody else, some glimmer of hope was that Europa League final. You know what we were thinking? I know we're 16. I know we've been losing all these games. We lost more games than we ever have in any Premier League season in our history. But you know what? There's always one thing. The fact that we could win the Europa League. The fact that winning that could get us to the Super Cup. That could get us 100 million. That could get us Champions League. Now we sit here on May 22nd, knowing that none of this is a possibility. Knowing that all the visions that we had for certain players, maybe it was an Edison, maybe Victor Gyökeres, Victor Osimhen, a couple of other players that we wanted. These players, they're not coming, guys. The simple reason being, they all want Champions League football. Forget Champions League football. Forget Europa League football. Forget Conference League football. We're not in any of these three competitions. And the fact that potentially, in 3 days' time, we could see that the Premier League has almost 10 teams in Europe, and we are not one of them, that is actually scary. And why? Why has it come to this point? You could almost call this a season review, because that is definitely what is required. Because this has been coming for how long, guys? This is not something that just happened yesterday. It has been hatching from the first game of the season. We saw how we started against Fulham, and have we really looked back ever since? We won that game, yes. But what kind of a performance did we put in that game? Tell me, wasn't the same trend followed pretty much all the way through? Under Ten Hag, it was gloom and doom. Under Ruud van Nistelrooy, for 3 games, it was pretty decent. But even then, we got the idea, you know what? Ruud might not be the guy, because his play style is not perfect enough to carry forward to the rest of the season. Then Ruben Amorim comes in. He comes in with his own play style, his own ideology. He says, you know what? I'm going to change everything. I'm going to change the culture of the club to make it something that resembles what it used to be. Something with culture. Something, the same things that Ole has told us, something that Ten Hag has told us. They want to put their own stamp in United history. And what does Ruben Amorim do for this? So what he makes clear in one of the first interviews and in multiple interviews afterwards, paraphrasing it of course, he implies that we are Man United, the players don't have time, I, being Ruben Amorim, don't have time, we need to deliver right this second. So I can't be waiting for the next day to say, you know what, results are going to be bad, but eventually we're going to get there. I have to deliver in this second or I am fired. This is the message that he has relayed. It wasn't me telling him anything. It wasn't the reporters putting words in his mouth. Because when reporters have tried that, he's always made sure that his message was clear. This guy, exactly what Ronaldo called, right? He's a poet. And he has a way with words. But I always say this. Actions do speak louder than words. So you can say 100 different things, but it's definitely what you do on a regular basis that shows who you really are. So you might say, we want to play this attacking style of football. We want to dominate teams. We want to take control of the other team. We want to make sure that the other team reacts to us instead of us reacting to them. You can say all these good things, but then when you see in play, you actually see, even let's take today's game for example, we just play a low line with no attacking impetus at all. Like, we do not have a front line that can attack. We know this since when, right? Now, you have Hojlund. Again, I've been asking this all season. Why do managers keep persisting with Rasmus Hojlund when this guy is one of the most awful players you have seen, that I have seen? And look at the approach in today's game. This is why, guys, you ask me, anybody else asks me that why don't I give Ruben Amorim time? Why have I been saying since February to get this guy out? One reason. People say that he doesn't have his players. I'm going to get to that. Look at the players that this manager really adores. Number one, let's talk about his first signing, Patrick Dorgu. So nobody here is going to debate the fact that Patrick Dorgu is a player Ruben Amorim wants, right? He suits everything that Amorim apparently wanted. He has physicality, he can run down the line, he puts crosses in, and he's a goal threat. This is what we signed him for. Because if you look at some stats, if you look at crossing stats, running stats, you see that Dorgu is one, if not two, in fullbacks or wingbacks in the world, across the world. This is including Nuno Mendes, this is including Balde. All the good fullbacks, Patrick Dorgu is number one. And this swindled all of us. We all thought, you know what? Maybe that means he is probably a good player. But then you see him play one or two games. And then you find that Dorgu, while he's a good runner, while sometimes he can get into positions, he does not have the technical ability to play a quick pass to the next midfielder, to the 10, and to keep it moving and find the spots at the right time. And defensively, this guy, he's like a twig. Every time that there's a pressure on him, that there's players surrounding him, he panics. Now, if this was a regular footballer, if this was somebody who used to play with me in amateur football, somewhere in Sunday League, I would not say a word. Because you know what? It's not my place. Because we're just playing for fun. It's nothing serious. But when you play for Man United, I don't really consider the fact that, he was playing in Lecce. He's only 20 years old. Because I see players, I see fullbacks especially. I'm going to point out Alejandro Balde again. Where's he playing? He's playing at Barcelona. This guy is playing at Barcelona. He has been playing already for 2 seasons. Because when we played them and we beat them at Old Trafford, right, when Anthony scored, Balde was actually left back then. And Balde cannot be over 21 years old right now. So he's probably 19 when he was starting for Barcelona. And did he look out of place in that team? If you don't remember, you know what? Go back and watch those games back. You'll see exactly what Balde offers. He is what we are trying to look for in Dorgu. And he's about the same profile, same age. And defensively weak, offensively insane. This is what we expect from Dorgu. But you know where Nuno Mendes, Alejandro Balde, they set themselves aside from Patrick Dorgu? It's just simply, they can play a pass. He cannot play a pass because he panics. If there's pressure, he just panics. Next player, Manuel Ugarte. Now, before any of you tell me that, you know what, he was signed before Ruben Amorim, so this cannot be a Ruben Amorim signing. Look at how the puzzle pieces just fall into place. So you're telling me that Erik ten Hag, who did not want anything to do with Manuel Ugarte. We know that from multiple sources that we saw around that time, he did not want Manuel Ugarte. So you're thinking, okay, maybe it's not a Ten Hag signing. The board wanted him because that recruitment strategy was all about getting Manuel Ugarte in. Yeah, you're right. But now let's look at the other players that we signed this season. The first player that we signed this season was Joshua Zirkzee, who definitely we all know is not a pace first player. He's more of a technical possession based player. Second signing that we made this season, Leny Yoro, who again, yeah, he has pace, but he's a technical first player, which is why we all love him, which is why we all think Leny Yoro is going to be something great. We all know that. But why? Because he's just technically insane. He knows how to play the system. He knows how to just play football in general. Signing 3 and 4. Mazraoui and De Ligt. Again, do they scream pace, power, energy? Well, they have those things. But the main focus of their football, again, is just technical ability. Finding spaces, experience, and just overall, I know how to play football. So you have these 4 players, and then suddenly you get signing number 5, Manuel Ugarte. This guy came from Sporting, so already has a Ruben Amorim link. But you might say, you know what, that's just coincidence. Fair. Look at these 4 profiles that I talked about and compare that to Manuel Ugarte. Is Manuel Ugarte good at resisting the press? No. Is he good at playing long passes? Maybe. No. Is he good at playing short passes? No. Is he good at evading danger? No, he's not. Is he a good dribbler? No, he's not. So this would mean these few characteristics itself tell me that he's nowhere in the same stratosphere as the other 4 signings. Because they are all possession-based players. These are at least metrics you would need if you are a possession player. And guess what? Ugarte doesn't qualify for that. So simply put, Ugarte is not a board signing. Ugarte is not a Ten Hag signing. So he was planned for Ruben Amorim. Why that came up is because, though news might tell you a different story, Ruben Amorim had discussions with INEOS and they understood that, you know what, Ten Hag is going to go. Ten Hag is not the guy. So we got to sack him, but maybe we'll play it out till the end of the season and then give Ruben Amorim preseason and let him start next season. That was the idea, I'm pretty sure. And what happened was Ten Hag's performances were just going all the way down to the point where INEOS was just like, you know what, now we're going to give you a different argument. Now we're going to say you have only one shot at this. You're going to either take the job now or you got to leave. And he had to take the job right now because he was just like, I don't know if I'm going to get Man City next season. It's really a 50-50. But United came around and he took the job. And I'm not going to be one of those guys in hindsight who's going to say, you know what, we never wanted Ruben Amorim anyways. I did want Ruben Amorim because I was seeing what he's doing at Sporting. And logically, for a manager who's never been tested outside, you'd still say, you know what, give him a chance, let's see what he can do. But the more you see his football, you see that he's heavily reliant on one kind of player for one kind of position. He is not flexible with, you know what, I can adapt a few players here and there to adapt my system. Like, namely, Kobbie Mainoo. Everybody has been looking down on Kobbie Mainoo this season. Why? Because he's had some injury problems, because Ten Hag has misprofiled him, because Ruben Amorim has misprofiled him. And because of this, apparently he's not a good player all of a sudden after seeing all the clutch goals that he's been getting. This season, last season, how we tick as a team much better when he plays at the 10, when he's playing more offensively instead of defensively. Yet, people think, you know what, we can sell Kobbie Mainoo. It's not a big trouble. Yeah, we can always replace that composure that he has for his age, for the level of experience he has. The level of composure he shows is beyond his years. He plays like a 27-year-old. But we think we can replace it, with some 50-60 million, you think? Meanwhile, the same people are saying Garnacho shows pace and energy, and so, despite no final product, despite not actually helping the team build cohesion, Garnacho could be a superstar. He could be Mr. Starboy. And then, Rasmus Hojlund, the player. I can talk about Diogo Dalot, I can talk about a couple of other players, but you know what, I'm just going to focus only on Hojlund. Because this guy, and I'm pretty sure most of the fan base feel the same thing right now, 95% of the fan base surely have understood that Hojlund is as good as nothing. You know, when we use a metaphor, he only has one attribute, X attribute, but he has nothing else. Tell me that's not true when it comes to Hojlund with just pace. And even that, to be honest, even Hojlund's pace is very questionable. He can't use his strength well because every time he tries to nudge a defender, he falls over, he bundles over. His first touch is not the greatest because it balloons off him like Lukaku. His shooting is not the best because, you know what, people say he has conversion rate, but you know what? You know what's another thing that a striker has to do? He has to create his own chances. I don't like Victor Gyökeres. But one thing I'll give Victor Gyökeres, something I see in the Portuguese league, given it's a Portuguese league, is that he can create his own chances. That it's not always the wingers or the wing backs rather servicing the striker. Sometimes he has to just get the ball from the camp and then just move himself. Because otherwise, you're classified as a penalty box striker, and these penalty box strikers don't offer anything else. So it's just you on your own, waiting for service and not offering anything else to the game. This guy, I watched him play for Denmark, guys. I watched him play early on in the season for Denmark in the Euros. I watched especially the game between Denmark and Germany. Denmark played as a team. They played as a unit. They had Hojlund, they had a lot of Brentford players. They had players who I've seen in other systems perform with brilliance. They had Yusuf Poulsen, who at Leipzig has been amazing, right? As a striker, he came on as a striker, and Skorvolsen at Hoffenheim. These are players who played in different systems and have had some level of success, who have taken their teams to Champions League before, and they have experience. All these players were linking up very well, all up to the point where the ball goes to Hojlund and then it's the same thing. The ball balloons off him. Because after his first season, you know what I thought? Maybe it's just United. We have bad luck with players and we hire the wrong players sometimes. So maybe it's just a United thing where Hojlund just cannot showcase his abilities. Which is why I made it a point in the Euros to watch every single game Denmark played. Just to prove that I was not insane, that I was not going crazy. The more I watched the games, I understood. You were right. The entire time I was right. Hojlund is poor at linking up. He's poor at being a penalty box striker as well. Because if we're being honest, his positioning is no better than Mount, you could say. Because I saw Mount score that goal against Athletic Bilbao, and his positioning and his turn was actually a striker's finish, a striker's turn. I've never seen Hojlund do that. Let's add to the fact that Ruben Amorim has not been playing Joshua Zirkzee, that he's been keeping Zirkzee on the bench. He's been hiding him on the bench for all this time just because he thinks Hojlund is his ideal profile. He might not be the perfect striker. In fact, he's far from it. That's what Ruben Amorim says. So we got to listen to him because he preaches the gospel. So we have to understand. Ruben Amorim says he's not my striker, but he still persists with him. Even though, what does Amorim really want from a striker? Amorim wants somebody who presses, somebody who runs, somebody who can link play, somebody who can score goals, somebody who can get assists, somebody who can be a team player. Let's cover it. Crucial moment goals. We might talk about Europa League goals, but let's look at the situations of who created what kind of goal, what kind of goals were scored. Joshua Zirkzee is better in that department. Assists, linking play, passing, dribbling, nutmegging, skills. Zirkzee is better. How about positioning, late runs into the box, headers? Zirkzee again. And the biggest one of them all, running, which is what Hojlund is always lauded for. I want you guys, it might be painful, just watch back this Spurs game and watch Hojlund in any segment of the game, because you know what, you can take this across the last 2 seasons. If you've watched Hojlund, you know exactly what he is. You don't even need to watch him back. But what I do want you to watch is from the 70th minute onwards, where Joshua Zirkzee comes on. Watch how he links play, and watch the runs he makes, and watch the pressing he does. And tell me that Hojlund does anything more than that. Yet Amorim thinks Hojlund is his ideal striker. You can have your own opinions about Zirkzee. Me personally, I think Zirkzee is just an amazing player that is one of the best strikers we can get in that position. But even if you think he's bad, I want you to justify the point why Ruben Amorim would think Zirkzee is a better striker than Hojlund. If you tell me, you know what, he's his profile, in what department of Ruben Amorim's demands, and he's more physical, he can hold up the ball better as well. I forgot to mention that. Zirkzee can hold up the ball better and he's more physical than him. He scores more headers than him. So what exactly is Ruben Amorim looking at Hojlund and thinking, you know what, this is my guy. He is the guy. This is where we should consider, you know what, Ruben Amorim has other biases. Why does Dalot keep starting? Why does Hojlund keep starting? And why does Ugarte, regardless of what happens, apart from yesterday's game, why does Ugarte keep starting every game? Now, if you think that he finally realized Ugarte isn't all that good, maybe he's not good in possession, why has it taken him this long? If this was his big revelation where he understood, no, Ugarte, he's no good, why did it take him till this point? And with that, you know that these are the problems with Ruben Amorim. If you think that Ruben Amorim is the right manager, all I ask you is why? Give me one reason. You might say he doesn't have his players. If he doesn't have his players, I want you guys, if you can comment that down below, comment it down below. Otherwise, you know what, just follow along with me. Amad Diallo. Do we think that he's at least a top 15 winger in the world? I would say so, yes. Is he a top 10 winger in the world? Yes. Is he even a top 5 winger? Yamal's in his own league. Saka, Palmer, Ahmad. And you can name a few others from here and there. These are all on the same wavelength afterwards. So you could easily say that Ahmad, if not even 5, you could say he's top 6. So he's a top 6 winger, right winger in the world. One thing he does give you, which Saka, which Palmer doesn't do, which even Yamal wouldn't do, is insane pressing stats. Is insane running, which these three can only dream of, but Ahmad gives you. Now, let's look at player number 2, Leny Yoro. In his age bracket, in the age bracket of 18 plus, you might say Raul Asensio, or you might put out names like Kuzanov. Leny Yoro is better than all of them. He will be the linchpin for France. If you think Saliba is good, watch when Euro's about 22, 23. You're going to really see a proper defender play. Because this guy's not scared, right? He's not scared of the ball. We all remember that Man United Lyon game where he just put his head on the line just to block a goal. We've seen this guy play on technically insane levels. We've seen him on the edge of the box. Even in the Europa League final yesterday, we saw him dribbling all the way through the midfield without any problems. Shows you he's not just a defender. He's not just a brute defender like some people think he is. He is skilled. He is proper, and he's one of the best centre backs. In my opinion, he is the best centre back in his age category. We have Kobbie Mainoo again, who people have their own opinions about, but I would say he's, again, for the role he plays, if he was to play a 10, he would be among the top 10 or 15 cams in the world for his age bracket at least. So we're looking at players who are very multifunctional. Joshua Zirkzee again. So if you think, and if you could agree with me that even if you want to really say that, if you think Garnacho is really that good, then you should be putting him also on another pedestal where you're saying he's also another good player we have. If you think Patrick Dogu is good, add him to the list. We have Matthias de Ligt. We have all these big players and players who have performed, even Casemiro, right? We all know, you might say Casemiro had a bad start to the season. I've said some wild things about Casemiro, especially at the start of the season. But the more you see him play, you understand, you know what? It's not a Casemiro problem. Because sure, he might not have the legs to run like he used to. But his technical ability, his reading of the game, and just his character alone is so beneficial to us. And that's the only reason we got to the Europa League final. Without Casemiro, we are knocked out against Lyon. Without Casemiro, we struggle against Bilbao. When we need goals, he's not there. So begs the question, where are we to look to blame? Are we going to blame the players? Some of the players are to blame. But are all of them to blame? Because all of them have had their own individual moments, individual brilliance. You can never tell me that Ruben Amorim coached that win against Lyon. Because we were 2-4 down. There was no hope, and then Casemiro had to get the penalty, and then that's when the resurgence started. So don't tell me that was on Ruben Amorim. No, it wasn't. And we've seen the Premier League. We've seen everything that's happened in the Premier League. 16th place in the Premier League. No. Let's get this straight. 16th place in the Premier League. You sacrifice football because you think, you know what, I'm going to win the Europa League because he's all about success. He wants to prioritize the Europa League. But then when it comes to winning the Europa League, when it comes to actually acting on what he's talking about, he gets second place. He gets runners up. So if you finish last of your Europa League table, right, at the qualification stage, and you lose at the final, what is the actual difference? Because all I see is that the person who finished bottom of the Europa League group stage has been eliminated out of the Europa League. And the runner-up, the loser in the final, has also been eliminated from the Europa League. All you get is a shiny silver medal, if that's what you care about. You do get a silver medal. But apart from that, you get that silver medal, which means nothing, which you can even burn because that's all the value is really. And you get 16th place in the Premier League, 39 points. 39 points. Do we understand? Do we understand how insane 39 points is? There was a time, a little while ago, where 40 points was the border considered as, you know what, this is the border where you survive. The only reason we have survived this season is because of how bad teams from the championship are. This is going to be a continuing trend. Teams from the championship are going to come up and then they're going to go down immediately. The top 17 teams in the Premier League have pretty much solidified themselves for the Premier League, let's just say for the next 5 years at least, till a good enough team comes up. And that's the only reason we've survived this season. If this was an actual competitive season in the relegation department, you know what? We might have gone down. If Ruben Amorim started any sooner, if we had actually sacked Ten Hag, maybe somewhere in September, we would have got relegated. And you can't tell me no, because look at the trend of all the results that have been happening when we were trying to take the Premier League seriously. Tottenham were still this bad. The game at Tottenham, at White Hart Lane, or Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, early on in the season when we lost 1-0, was the exact same game as the Europa League final. Neither team played well. They come back the goal and they won. Yet here we are, all these days later, same result, same performance levels, and yet people are not calling for Ruben Amorim's head. People are saying, give Amorim time. One thing, guys, you know what? There's only one thing you need to remember when you say you want to give somebody time. You need to have seen a track record, something that proves at your very club that he has done something. And so far, all he has done for me is get to a Europa League final and bottle it against the biggest bottlers that we know, Tottenham Hotspur. And he got 16th place in a Premier League. The Premier League, you might say, a Premier League where Ten Hag left us in 14. And I'm not a Ten Hag advocate. You can just check out my earlier videos. I cannot stand Ten Hag. But let's get this right. He left us maybe like 5 or 6 points. Worst case, 10 points off the top 4. How far are we away from Chelsea now? We're in 5th place. I honestly, I haven't even checked. But I'm pretty sure this is over 20 points. Over 25 points. And if that is the case, Ruben Amorim has done an extremely bad job. Extremely bad job. Consider all the players that we talked about. Consider the players that we rate. That we would compare against other rivals and say, you know what, no, you can't say this. You know what, this player is better than that player. If that is the case, you're saying essentially that our players are of good quality, that our manager is messing up. That is why we're losing. That is why you might be making a case for your player, but our player is better. And yeah, that's it, guys. We've lost to Spurs. This is a bigger loss than just one game. It's not just for one season. Unfortunately, I just hope, right, we can make it through this. But it's going to be an interesting summer. It's going to be a lot that we need to look back on, a lot that we need to focus on, discuss. A lot of signings that may be made, a lot of controversial decisions that will be made, that might have to be made. A lot of decisions that will not be made that should be made, like notably sacking Ruben Amorim because he's just not good enough, sacking a few players, selling a few players, releasing a few players if needed. That should be gone, but might not happen. So that is Tottenham Hotspur 1, United 0. We lost the Europa League final, one of the biggest games of our last 10-15 years against Spurs. I just cannot believe it. This is not something any of us expected, but here we are. So see you all in the next one.